The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. It wasn't delivered by the mailman, whose cheerful whistle was a familiar sound on Amelia's block, but by a courier in a crisp, black uniform who looked profoundly uncomfortable standing on her worn-out porch. The envelope was thick, creamy cardstock, impossibly heavy, with her name, Ms. Amelia Hayes, scripted in elegant, looping calligraphy. Inside, embossed in gold leaf, were the details for the St. Jude's Children's Foundation annual charity gala. It was one of the city's most exclusive and extravagant events, a place where seven-figure donations were pledged between sips of vintage champagne. Tickets for such an event could cost anywhere from a few hundred to tens of thousands of dollars. Amelia, whose nonprofit, Asphalt and Blooms, ran on a shoestring budget and the sheer force of her will, knew she was not on their usual guest list. Then she saw the handwritten note at the bottom, on a separate, smaller card bearing a single, stylized chef. Amelia, I've been hearing about your little garden project. So inspiring. Please, be my guest at the gala. It's time the world saw the face of true charity. Alistair Finch. The name hit her like a physical blow. Alistair Finch. A real estate billionaire whose glass and steel towers were monuments to gentrification, casting long shadows over the very neighborhoods he displaced. He was old money, insulated from reality by layers of wealth and sycophants. Amelia had publicly criticized his latest development, which was set to bulldoze a community center to make way for luxury condos. Her best friend, Maria, peered at the invitation over her shoulder. It's a trap, Leah. He's going to make a spectacle of you. Amelia knew Maria was right. This wasn't an olive branch, it was bait. Alistair Finch, a man who saw people like her as either obstacles or punchlines, wanted to put her on display. He would invite the poor black woman to his glittering gala to mock her, to show his powerful friends a little social experiment for their amusement. He'd parade her around as his pet project, a testament to his supposed magnanimity, before tossing her aside. And yet, a flicker of something stubborn and defiant ignited within her. For years, she had been fighting for scraps of funding, writing grant proposals until her fingers ached, trying to make people in power understand the crisis of food deserts. These were areas, often in low-income and minority communities, where access to affordable, nutritious food is severely limited or non-existent. 1. According to the USDA, nearly 39.5 million people were living in such low-income, low-access areas. 2. Her project, Asphalt and Blooms, was a direct response. They transformed neglected urban lots, spaces choked with weeds and littered with debris, into vibrant community gardens. It was more than just about food. These gardens were becoming the heart of their community. They were places for connection, reducing social isolation and fostering a sense of pride. 3. 4. Research showed that community gardens could increase surrounding property values, and for every dollar invested, they could yield about $6 worth of produce. 5. They were hubs of environmental and social resilience, improving air quality, reducing the urban heat island effect, and providing educational opportunities. 6. 7. But telling that to a city council or a grant committee was one thing. Showing it to the people who held the city's purse strings, all gathered in one room, was another. I'm going, Amelia said, her voice firm. Maria stared at her. Why? To let him humiliate you? He thinks he's setting a trap, Amelia replied, a slow smile spreading across her face. He doesn't realize I'm walking in with my own key. The week leading up to the gala was a blur of frantic preparation. Amelia's entire net worth wouldn't cover the cost of a designer gown, so she did what she always did, she turned to her community. She found a dress at a high-end consignment shop, a simple, floor-length sheath of deep sapphire blue. It was elegant but understated. Mrs. Gable, the neighborhood's retired seamstress who had taught Amelia how to test soil pH, spent an evening tailoring it to fit her perfectly, refusing any payment. You go show them what we're made of, baby, she'd said, her fingers nimble despite her age. The night of the gala, as Amelia stood before the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel, she felt a tremor of fear. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the low hum of powerful conversations. Diamonds glittered on necks and wrists, and the clinking of glasses sounded like a foreign currency. She handed her invitation to the attendant, who gave it a skeptical glance before finding her name on the list. As she stepped inside, a wave of silence seemed to follow her. Heads turned. Whispers slithered through the crowd like smoke. She was an anomaly, a splash of stark reality in their gilded fantasy. Alistair Finch, flanked by two men with identical smirks, detached himself from a group and glided toward her. He was tall and silver-haired, his tuxedo tailored with razor-sharp precision. His smile didn't reach his cold, blue eyes. Amelia. You came, he boomed, his voice dripping with false bonhomie. He took her hand, his touch lingering a moment too long. Everyone, this is the remarkable woman I was telling you about. She grows vegetables. In the dirt. Can you imagine the grit? His friends chuckled, a low, condescending sound. Amelia kept her expression neutral, her posture ramrod straight. "It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Finch," she said, her voice even. "Please, call me Alistair," he insisted, steering her towards the bar. "Let me get you a drink. I imagine this is all a bit overwhelming." He gestured vaguely at the opulence around them. "We raised over $5 million last year. Of course, that's just a number. What really matters is the feeling of giving back, don't you think?" He was playing his part perfectly. The benevolent billionaire, educating the poor woman on the finer points of philanthropy. For the next hour, he kept her tethered to his side, a living, breathing prop for his performance. He introduced her to bankers, tech moguls, and society doyens, always with a patronizing preamble about her charming and a rustic little project. He'd punctuate the introductions with comments like, "She's making a real difference, 1 carat at a time," followed by a wink to his companions. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing down on her. She could feel the judgment in their polite smiles, the dismissal in their fleeting glances. They saw her as he wanted them to see her, a novelty, a charity case, a brief diversion before the main event. Finally, Alistair led her to a quiet corner. "Look, Amelia," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I admire your passion. I really do. So, as a gesture of my support, my foundation would like to make a donation to your garden." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a check. "A little something to help you buy some more shovels." He held it out to her. She didn't take it. She glanced down and saw the amount, $500. It was a calculated insult. An amount so paltry from a man of his means that it was more of a mockery than a gift. It was the punchline to his cruel joke. "Thank you, Alistair," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "But I think you should hold on to that. You may need it more than I do." Alistair's smile faltered. "I'm sorry?" Before Amelia could reply, the lights in the ballroom dimmed. A woman in a sleek, professional suit walked onto the stage. She was Eleanor Vance, the president of the St. Jude's Children's Foundation. "Good evening, everyone," Eleanor began, her voice warm and commanding. "Thank you all for your incredible generosity. For decades, this foundation has focused on large-scale, top-down charitable endeavors. But the world is changing, and so are we." A murmur went through the crowd. Alistair looked momentarily distracted, annoyed that the attention was no longer on him. "We've come to realize that true, lasting change often doesn't come from grand, sweeping gestures, but from the ground up," Eleanor continued. "It comes from grassroots initiatives, from people deeply embedded in their communities who are creating innovative, sustainable solutions to systemic problems." 8. 9. She spoke of a shift in philanthropic focus, moving away from band-aid fixes and towards addressing root causes, a justice approach, not just a charity one. 10. This year, Eleanor announced, her eyes scanning the room, we decided our keynote address should reflect this new vision. We wanted to honor someone whose work embodies the spirit of community empowerment, resilience, and genuine impact. Someone who is not just talking about change, but is cultivating it with her own 2 hands. Alistair, standing beside Amelia, preened slightly, a self-satisfied smirk returning to his face. He clearly believed he was about to be lauded for discovering her. "It is my profound honor," Eleanor said, her voice ringing with sincerity, "to introduce you to the founder of Asphalt and Blooms, a true pioneer in urban agriculture and community development. Please welcome our keynote speaker for this evening, Ms. Amelia Hayes." A spotlight hit Amelia. The ballroom fell into a stunned, absolute silence. The only sound was the soft, choked gasp that escaped Alistair Finch's lips. His face, just a moment ago so smug and self-assured, had turned a pasty white. The check was still clutched in his hand, now looking like the pathetic insult it was. Amelia met his horrified gaze for a single, satisfying second. Then, with a grace and composure that belied the thunderous beating of her heart, she walked toward the stage. As she ascended the small set of stairs, a wave of dizziness washed over her. The faces in the crowd were a blur of shock and confusion. She could feel Alistair's stare burning into her back. She reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and took a deep, steadying breath. "Good evening," she began, her voice clear and strong, echoing through the silent hall. "A few days ago, I received an invitation to be here tonight. To be honest, I was surprised. This world of glittering chandeliers and champagne is very different from mine." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "My world is one of cracked pavement and chain-link fences. It's a world designated as a food desert, where the nearest supermarket is miles away, but fast food chains are on every corner. 1. It's a community that some people only see from the tinted windows of a limousine as they pass through to somewhere more important." She saw a few people shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Good. There's a perception that charity is something the powerful bestow upon the powerless," she continued, her gaze sweeping the room. A grand gesture, a check written at a glamorous event like this one, that allows the giver to feel good about themselves before returning to a life of comfort, utterly disconnected from the problems they claim to solve. She didn't look at Alistair, but she could feel the weight of his humiliation from across the room. But that isn't charity. That is performance. True charity, true justice, is not about writing a check. It's about closing the distance. It's about recognizing the inherent strength and wisdom within a community and empowering them to build their own solutions. Now, her voice filled with the passion that drove her every day. That's what we do at Asphalt and Blooms. We take the forgotten, derelict lots that scar our neighborhoods and we turn them into sources of life. We put our hands in the dirt and we cultivate not just food, but community. 6. We create green spaces that have been shown to improve mental and physical health, with studies indicating gardeners are less likely to be overweight and report higher levels of well-being. 4. 5. She leaned into the microphone. We are providing more than just vegetables. We are providing food security, which research shows can be lowered by up to 90% through community gardens. 5. We are providing education, teaching our children where food comes from. We are building social capital, connecting neighbors who might otherwise never speak. 3. We are creating a model for sustainable urban living that can be replicated in cities across the nation. She finally allowed her eyes to drift to Alistair Finch. He was frozen, a statue of impotent rage and public disgrace. Some people see a vacant lot and see a blight, an opportunity for a luxury high-rise that will displace hundreds. They see the people in that neighborhood as a problem to be managed or, perhaps, an object of pity to be trotted out for an evening's entertainment. They see us, and they see a less than. But we look at a vacant lot and see a future. We see a classroom. We see a pharmacy of fresh food. We see a community center. We see hope. She took a breath, her speech reaching its crescendo. The St. Jude's Foundation's new focus on grassroots initiatives is more than a new strategy, it's a revolutionary act. It's an admission that the people with the most money don't always have the best answers. Sometimes, the best answers come from the people with the dirt under their fingernails. She looked out at the sea of faces, no longer a blur. She saw comprehension, respect, and in some, a dawning sense of shame. Don't write a check tonight to feel good. Write a check to be a part of something real. Invest in the people on the ground who are doing the work, day in and day out. Don't just be a donor. Be a partner. Thank you. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a single person in the back began to clap. Another joined, and then another, and within seconds, the entire ballroom was on its feet, erupting in a thunderous standing ovation. The sound was a tidal wave, washing over her, washing away the humiliation and the fear. As she walked off the stage, Eleanor Vance hugged her, tears in her eyes. That was, she whispered, exactly what they needed to hear. The rest of the evening was a whirlwind. Amelia was surrounded, not by gawkers, but by people with genuine interest. A tech entrepreneur pledged $250,000 for a new greenhouse and irrigation system. A woman who ran a family foundation offered a 5-year operational grant, providing the stability Amelia had only dreamed of. 11. They didn't offer pity, they offered partnerships. She never saw Alistair Finch again that night. He had vanished, swallowed by the shadows of his own making. The joke had backfired spectacularly, leaving him the sole punchline. Amelia left the gala long before it ended, the cool night air a welcome balm on her flushed cheeks. She didn't feel triumphant or vengeful. She felt a profound sense of peace. She had walked into the lion's den, not as prey, but as a voice for the voiceless. And she had been heard. The next morning, she was back at the garden, the sapphire dress carefully stored away. The sun was warm on her back as she knelt in the soil, a handful of seeds in her palm. The noise of the city seemed to fade away, replaced by the laughter of children from a nearby playground and the gentle rustle of kale leaves. This was her ballroom. This was her world. And thanks to a billionaire's arrogant mistake, it was about to get a whole lot bigger. I hope you enjoyed Amelia's story of resilience and justice. If her journey inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories that empower and uplift. Your support helps us continue to create content that matters.